I'm going to jump right into it. We have a short, small amount of time today to get this all rolling, okay? Because I got to go to work early, you know. There, is that better? There. Is that better? Do you trust me now? Okay, sorry for that outburst. Welcome to Prelude to Ulysses. This is Alex reads the Bible. No, that's not what this is. I love adult acne. It's fun. It's good to be an adult. Book of the Child, Part 8B. We're not going to go into what happened last time. You are an exceptional taste. Okay, we're ready. Welcome to Prelude. Which got a couple pages to read, man. I'm just struggling. Oh yeah, he said the cabbage is sluttish. They're eating. You are in exceptional spirit tonight, said Hathfertiti. I am like this once a year. Once a year, said my father devoutly. Do you enjoy the vinegar? Asked Ton-Nem-Hotep. It is powerful, but true to your description, said my father. I had not liked the cabbage and did not eat from it, and liked the next dish less, for it was quail and uncooked. The skin had been removed. I read part of this, whatever. I think I read just this. The skin had been removed, and the bird seasoned, then the skin put on again as a blouse. But when I ate it, perhaps it was the salt, a garlic salt, with a fierce oozing from another spice. The cold life, not yet cooked out of the bird, managed to fly up one nostril and out the other. I had to close my eyes. Then I could see 20 quail, like 20 black dots in a cloud, who became 20 white dots in a cave. Now they were black again. I began to laugh at the thought that my nose wanted to pee. Then I sneezed. Do you think he's like witnessing the life of birds psychically? And death, white bird, black bird. The row of fish came next, served on a plate with a curious egg whose shell was not speckled but white. My mother cried out, Is this the bird from Babylon? We already read this. Whatever. Hey, if I already read this part, just fast forward to the part where I am. The bird that does not fly? Asked my father. Yes, the Babylonian bird that does not like water and does not fly. What does it do? Asked my mother. It makes a noise, and is stupid, filthy, and useless, but for its eggs. Or are they as good as duck eggs? Only if you are from Babylon, said Ton-Nem-Hotep, and everyone laughed. He told us then of how he had these creatures brought to him by ship. A tame bird, he kept repeating, but they made such a din of cackling and strutting and crying out that the oarsmen thought the birds were calling to their Babylonian gods. So the crew was ready to slaughter their cargo at the first sign of a storm. Fortunately, no big winds came. Now I have the birds in a corner of my garden, and they take to the soil of Egypt. They multiply. Soon I will be able to send you some. In fact, I whisper to you, I like these filthy little cacklers. Their eggs seem good for my thoughts. I was feeling gloomy, however. The heat of the great candles, the war of spices in my nose, my chest, and my belly, and the sad, salty taste of the roe sat with me in sorrow. I did not know what to make of the egg from Babylon. It was raw and yellow in the yolk, not green. It had a taste like cheese and wet walls and sulfur and flour paste. And I even thought it smelled a little like caca on certain mornings. Yet, even as I could like such a smell, why am I reading this again? I made a whole note, I did this. See that? I made like one of those things where it's like, you're here, this part. And I drew an arrow to that. And I was not there. I was somewhere else. It's okay. I got to go look at my percolator. I might have some coffee right. Okay, I'll pause it. It's fine. Wait, where was I? Let's finish this paragraph. Then I'll go look at the coffee. Caca on certain mornings. Yet even as I could like such a smell in one day or another, if it came from me, so did I like the egg. It was as yellow as the Pharaoh's own butter, that the servants were passing out now on sweet little cakes of the finest flour. Let me just see if it's bubbling in the glass. Coffee's not even ready yet, so don't even worry. Still, the combination of fish eggs and bird eggs had certainly affected my mother, for she began to talk to Ta-Nem-Hotep of the day of my birth as if I were not there, speaking of how she had kept my birth back by holding her knees together, and said this with her bare breast leaning toward the Pharaoh. I would not have him born, she said, until the lucky hour was there. I did not want many, my Menka, to see the day until the sun was at its height, and yellow as this egg. But when the Pharaoh merely nodded, and did not seem wholly rescued from the boredom that surrounded him, the way death is always near a man who is wasting, my mother pushed away her roe and cried out, "You don't mean to tell me that these little red jellies might have become fish?" "All," said my father. "There are always enough fish in the sea." There was now a pause, and so much for the rebuke to my mother. As for the solemnity of my father's remark, we had 8 or 10 sayings, such as, "One thread saves 7 stitches," "Right thinking is the husband of right doing," or "Enough fish in the sea," as my father had just observed. Such comments never asked for a reply, and so there was now, as I said, a pause. But it did not seem to leave any animosity against my father. It was as if everyone knew that he must have stopped the conversation for a reason, since he thought only of the Pharaoh's wishes, and knew them even as they were forming. Everyone assumed, including the Pharaoh, that our good God must have some desire to pause. In truth, he did. "It is time," said Ta-Nem-Hotep, "for Rep and Repi, R-E-P and R-E-P-I." What's this thing? And to the laughter of everyone, he stood up and left the room. I knew my parents were shocked. Repi had been the word taught to me as a polite way of announcing I must urinate, but rep, at least in the way Ta-Nem-Hotep had spoken it, could only suggest an ugly beast breathing hot wind in every direction. In truth, rep was our most awful word for caca, and the two together, rep and repi, were so terrible that no one, not even the Pharaoh, would care to say it on any night other than the Feast of the Pig. Poop and pee, rep and repi. I suppose it was his way of reminding us that on this night, not only could we speak of matters considered improper on all other nights, but indeed were supposed to. Once Ta-Nem-Hotep had left, however, we were on guard against the servants, for we could feel their ears come alive. Nefertiti became conspicuously silent, and Menenhette and Nekhkep-Okhem had a conversation about the best kind of throwing stick to take out in the swamp for ducks. Is that how you hunt ducks? But their talk lapsed, and I can hear my mother whisper to my father, "Is he never like this on other nights?" Hang tight. 1 minute. My father looked up from the last of his conversation with Menenhedit and shook his head. Now a dark and bearded Syrian in a heavy woolen, ill-smelling garment was allowed to enter, and he bowed profoundly before each of us, and poured out a liquid from a heavy vat barrel he carried in his arms, his own body reeking of the beer he served. So soon as he had filled our mugs, he was gone, but I could see the servants found the smell of his wet beer, old body oil, sweat, and damp wool altogether ferocious. The beer, however, to my parents' surprise, was exceptionally good, or at least so they declared, since they would not let me drink any. Then Ton-em-Otep returned, and related to us, as if there had been nothing exceptional in his departure, a charming story about the brewer. One night, okay, I'm gonna get the coffee. I'm gonna come right back. Don't worry, I'm gonna pause it too for you. Welcome back to Prelude to Ulysses. Where we drink coffee. We do reviews of Godzilla movies. I'm still trying to watch Mothra vs. Godzilla. It's really good, but I keep trying to watch it too late at night. And there's something about subtitles. I love subtitles. I use subtitles for absolutely everything, even things I can understand. Unless it's a comedy film, then I kind of don't. But, I keep going to sleep watching it because I like it. When I like something, I fall asleep next to it. I love my job. You get it? It's a joke. Chill out. One night, the Pharaoh has returned and has a funny story about the beer brewer. One night, I told overseer of the royal kitchen, this is the Pharaoh speaking, to bring me the best beer in Memphis, and the next day he groveled on the floor at what he had to confess. But it seems our best brewer in all the city is a filthy fellow named Rava, the same one you saw, and he declared he would not send his beer to Twin Gates unless he could accompany it. Didn't you flog the fool? I asked. I did, overseer told me, and Rava poured his beer on the ground. I could beat him half to death, he said, but there would be no beer unless he could serve the Pharaoh himself. Well, it made me curious. I told overseer to bring the fool. Had to keep him at a distance because of his stench, but what a beer! Rava claims it is his vat that makes it special, and I must say the drink gets better all the time. He says that since I've been sharing his beer, the cracks in his vat have more power than ever to flavor well. Joybringer, he calls his filthy stuff, but it is good. He speaks of you, divine Two-House, as sharing his beer? Asked my mother. Yes, Rava says that the power of the brew is promiscuous and must be shared by all. That is the center of its strength. Do you know, I believe him. I sip this stuff and feel close to my people. I never feel that while sipping unguent of the heart. I think that's unguent. All right, we'll look that one up. Unguent. Unguent. Godzilla in Hell. It's a comic book I haven't been reading. Okay. Ungue. What's the chances I'm going to remember how to spell that by the time I get there? Low. Right there. U.S. Unthinking. Unscrumptious. Universe. Unmerciful. GHFG ungu GU unguent UNGUENT. I fucking did it. You fucking haters. You thought I couldn't do it. Hey, you're right most of the time though. So, unguent, an ointment or salve, Especially, that's what I think it means, ESP in the dictionary. ESP, especially, I've lost it, fuck. Especially when liquid or semi-liquid. So the word semi-liquid is from one page to the other. One, like, there's like the hyphen or like the dash, but instead of being SEMI dash LIQUID, it's SEM dash ILIQUID. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Let's read unicorn. Unicorn, a mythical creature resembling a horse with a single horn in the center of its forehead, often a symbol of purity. Unicorns were stabbing people all the time. Back in the day. Fuck, where were we? Oh, I've never felt that while sipping unguent of the heart. He pointed to one amphora of wine. I'm guessing that's a carafe. Or, pointing to another, cellared in this preserve. That's the name of a wine. Cellared in this preserve. It's all capitalized. No, said Tanem-Hotep sadly. Then I feel close only to the priests. I do not know how you can speak that way, my mother said to him in an intimate voice. As if at last comfortable with her new manners on the night of the pig, she could scold him just so naturally as if they had been married for 10 years or more. You are renowned for your quality of your wine. Here, she smiled a little drunkenly, as if she knew she was going to reveal her pet name for my father. Why, our good friend Neff has eyes as dull as muddy water when he speaks to me. But when he speaks of you, she paused, as if taking a dare with herself. His eyes look like diamonds. I'm struggling to believe they had diamonds in Egypt, but who knows? Cultural epicenters, People bring shiny shit there. She gave a hiccup without covering her mouth, an act she would never have allowed on other nights, and said, You may adore the snail, but I adore the night of the pig, you see. I think there is a pig enough in each of us to make one feast a year. Of course. She smiled deliciously. On this night, we have a fear that restrains us. We fear we are nothing but pigs, whereas you are a god as well. Great are your two houses of the pig. I felt an immense commotion in my ears, yet not a sound was uttered. The attention of the servants was equal to the silence of fish after one of their numbers had been pulled from the sea. My father's mouth did not close. So I had the first look of my life at the first size of his tongue. Full size of his tongue. My father's mouth did not close, so I had the first look of my life at the full size of his tongue. He had an immense tongue. Even Menenhedet stirred in disbelief. You may not speak that way, he said sharply to Hathfertiti. Doesn't sound like she said anything that bad. She's like, listen, so I'm understanding now that the night of the pig is a night to gorge yourself in a way, spiritually as well. Eat a bunch of food, talk a bunch of shit, be less than this elitist Egyptian human you have become, Because inevitably, we're all just getting lice. We're all just eating food. We're all drinking fucking beer out of some weirdo's cask. Not that special. That's what I think Night of the Pig is. So what she says is like, we are celebrating something real, right? But in their religion, or whatever you'd want to call it, political system, he is thought of as a reincarnation constantly, which Menenhedet, our hero, might also be. But he cannot celebrate the Feast of the Pig in the same way, because he's not a human being. Kitty! I don't have a cat, just so you know. I felt an immense commotion between my ears. Oh, wait. Yeah. Tanem-Hotep, however, saluted her with the last of his beer. I have been called 2 lions, 2 trees, and once I was called 2 divine hippopotami. I have been termed son of Horus and son of Set, as well as prince of Ibis and Osiris. I've been named as heir to Thoth and Anubis, but never, dear company, has anyone had the wit to think of my double house as the pigsty of the north and the pigsty of the south. Oh, because she calls him, great are your two houses of the pig, because they call him two houses. I think one in real life, one in like 1 foot in the afterlife or something. I don't know. But she says it's the pig. It's a okay, that's fun. I guess. I don't really get it though. In the pigsty of the south, I must ask, where is this pig? You can bring it to us, he said over his shoulder to the servants, and gave back my mother something of the same delicious smile she had offered to him. Yet each of his cheeks had a touch of red no larger than the pinch of a cruel finger, a red just so bright as blood in a boil beneath the skin. And anger rocked through the air. I felt as if the space between them had a red hue, different from the air between others. The power of my mother and Menenhedet to glare at each other out of the very depths of their blood was equaled now as my mother stared into the face of the pharaoh, while the heat of the great candles in the room became greater. The flame rose, and my mother and Tanem-Otep sat motionless. Then she looked away. Not even on the night of the pig may a woman gaze into the eyes of the good God. Hang tight. Excuse me. What's going on? I got to figure it out, guys. Don't worry. The sound I heard was that I'd left my PlayStation on all night. But I turned the TV off. I wasn't even... What did I even watch? What did I come home and watch last night? I turned it off pretty quick. Excuse you. Not even on the night of the pig may a woman gaze into the eyes of the good God. Look into them, cried Tanem-Otep. On this night, the God is gone. To me, he seemed at this instant more like a god than he had appeared all day. When my mother did not reply, he made a harsh and barking sound of his triumph. This is a marvelous night, he said, and took up his leopard's tail to hold the tip before his nose. The tail of the leopard, he added, was worn first by my great ancestor Khufu, who taught the people of Egypt how to raise the weight of a great stone to the pyramids, and he pounded his tail on the table, as if pulling into himself the strength of the stones. And I thought I'd never seen him look so alive, nor so attractive to my mother. I knew jealousy again. Like a lover climbing a wall, so did my thoughts climb to my mother's dark hair, my jealousy taking me through all of her reluctance to let me in. But then she could hardly keep me out. She was in more of a hurry to protect herself from the desire of the pharaoh to enter. She had cause not to let him know what she thought, intimate as I expected to be. I was not prepared to feel so quickly the carnal breath of her true mind, and knew in an instant why she had spoken. Incredible still was the ring of those sounds in my memory. Two houses of the pig. But then the words, high on the wave of the last swallow of Joybringer beer. That's what the beer is called. Only broken out of a sudden disturbance between her legs. But then the words had only broken out of a sudden disturbance between her legs. My mind being in her mind, my body was in her body, and my legs among hers. And did I know that she had one thumping exchange of meat with Rava in the passing of her thoughts. What? She's thinking about the stinky beer boy? Oh, she likes stinkers, doesn't she? She loves them poop pickers-uppers. Good for her. And my legs among hers, so did I know that she had one thumping exchange of meat with Rava in the passing of her thoughts. Hathfertiti likes the stinky boys. Me and Hath, we gonna get along good. I stink like I was cuddling my stinky fucking dog. This dog stinks like shit. That's for reals. Good dog. I love you. I love her. She smells like shit. All right, we got this. We do. That way I learned again what I had known before. Not only servants like Ayasab, but ladies like my mother could take sweet finger in their mouth. Except that Rava did not have a sweet finger, for by way of my mother I saw a warty club, heavy veined as a forearm and as red in color as the spots on Ta-Nem-Hotep's cheeks. She was still thinking of her mouth on Rava, her nostrils breathing in his pubic hair, her head overtaken by old sweat, old beer, and Syrian wool, while through her thoughts went Ta-Nem-Hotep's words on cabbage, sluttish. And she shivered in recollection, and saw the genitals of other men as well. Bone Smasher for the first, even as she had glimpsed his groin through the parting of his breechcloth on the boat that morning. And I knew Rava was a handle to the jug no more, of her great recollection of Fekfuti, and how as a child, tickled at every recollection that his name was Shit Collector, she used to sit on his lap and try to catch a whiff of the old trade. Gardens being the root and breath of childhood pleasures. She had a moment when she passed through an orgy of embraces, taken by every hole in her body, a roar of sensations, bloody as meat. And so she had cried the words aloud, furious at Ta-Nem-Hotep for allowing the beer of Rava to be laid on her tongue, and said, yes, indeed, and then, she had cried the words aloud, and then, yes, indeed, said, or so I heard it now, great double pigsty. Yes, I had much to learn about my mother. If I could feel the Pharaoh's pleasure that Hathfertiti had cast down her eyes after trying to stare into his, I also knew his anger at what she had said. And so she must. And so must she, for now, as if his only wish were for the pleasures of quiet conversation to absorb his new pleasures and calm his angers. So she said in her very best voice, were you only jesting when you spoke of wine as inferior to beer? Oh, not inferior, said Ta-Nem-Hotep, but priestly. I'm too much of a priest myself, you see. Not at all, said my mother. Your kindness is voluptuous, said Ta-Nem-Hotep. He reached forward and touched the tip of his middle finger to the tip of her bare breast. Here comes the entertainment, he said cheerfully. Boop! It's called bean dip. Just take that nip and go bank. People love it. How big is chapter 9? Let's find out. Some of these chapters are pretty long. Alright. That's a big day. It's hard to read books, isn't it? Okay, cool. That's fun. Oh, shit. I gotta do stuff. Bye. I love you. Damn it, that was weird. I gotta quit saying that.